For many people, Sean Connery as James Bond epitomizes a man of wit, sophistication, elegance, and charm. But the man viewers saw on screen was not the same man that Sean Connery started out as. The character that he brought to life in those movies was one that he crafted through a deliberate process of education, mentorship, and practice. And in today's video, we're going to look at exactly how Sean Connery transformed himself into a modern gentleman for the James Bond role, and what you could learn from this process and apply to your own life to become the most gentlemanly version of you. Hello, my name is James, and I'm on a mission to create a generation of gentlemen. Let's start by taking a look at Sean Connery's life before the James Bond role. The family and environment in which Sean was born into couldn't be much further from the glamour and excitement of the James Bond movies. Connery grew up in what can only be described as a slum in inner city Edinburgh. He grew up in the post-Depression era. Money was tight, jobs were few, and for Connery's family, like many other families at the time, life was very tough. As a result, the young Sean grew up rather fast. He took a job as a milkman when he was 14, before joining the Royal Navy at 16. And it was during his brief time with the Navy that he got his 2 tattoos done, both of which would be later covered up with makeup when he became James Bond. After his brief stint in the Navy, Connery worked through a series of low-paying odd jobs like being a lorry driver, a laborer, a lifeguard, and, interestingly, an artist's model. And that's because by the age of 18, Connery had developed a serious interest in bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding even. And it was those bodybuilding competitions that would become his gateway to the world of theatre and acting. Sean was in his early 30s when author Ian Fleming and the producers began looking for the man that would finally bring James Bond to the silver screen. And in the novels, Ian Fleming had laid out exactly the type of man that James Bond should be. James Bond is a blunt instrument, he wrote, wielded by a government department. He is quiet, hard, ruthless, sardonic, fatalistic. In his relationships with women, he shows them the same qualities as he does in his job, but he has a certain gentleness with them. And if they get into trouble, he is sometimes prepared to sacrifice his life to rescue them. But not always, and certainly not if it interferes with his job. He likes gambling, golf, and fast motor cars. Originally, the producers and Ian Fleming had somebody like Cary Grant or David Niven in mind for the role. Somebody who was already established with a reputation for playing sophisticated, upper-class type characters. However, they were working with a relatively low budget, and they were looking for a man who could commit to a series of films, and an actor of Cary Grant's level at that time was simply not on the table. Ian Fleming was a snob. Pretty much everybody who knew him would say that. He was looking for an actor that would speak his own language. He'd been to Eton. He hung around in the upper echelons of London society. He wanted a man like that. So when Sean Connery arrived as a prospect, Ian Fleming really wasn't too impressed at first. He said, "He's not what I envisioned of James Bond looks. I'm looking for Commander Bond, not an overgrown stuntman." Not only physically, but also in his general demeanor. Sean Connery appeared to be too much of a rough cut to portray Ian Fleming's sophisticated, refined spy. But the producer of Dr. No, Cubby Broccoli, saw something different in Sean. He had a strength and an energy about him, which I found riveting. We were looking to give our 007 a much broader box office appeal, a sexual athlete who would look great in Savile Row suits, but with the lean midriff of a character who starts his day with 20 push-ups. Everything about Sean Connery was convincingly James Bond. That said, the producers and the director, Terence Young, understood that there was still a lot of work to do to take this working class former bodybuilder and labourer from Edinburgh and turn him into their debonair London spy. Cubby Broccoli wrote, "Once we signed Sean Connery, we threw everything into grooming him for the part. The way Bond dressed was intrinsic to the character. We're talking about an ex-Eton type who mixed with the aristocracy, belonged to the most exclusive clubs, gambled at Monte Carlo, and wore handmade silk shirts and Sea Island cotton pajamas." And the responsibility for crafting Sean Connery into that type of man fell on director Terence Young. Lois Maxwell, who played Miss Moneypenny in the early Bond films, said Terence took Sean under his wing. He took him to dinner, showed him how to walk, how to talk, even how to eat. And Sean Connery said himself that it was Terence really who took him in hand. Sean said that he got knocked into shape with the tailor, Anthony Sinclair, on Savile Row, and Turnbull and Asser shirts. Terence even persuaded Sean to go out in the evenings in London wearing these clothes so he would simply feel natural and comfortable on screen. And he even took it so far as to make Sean sleep in his two-piece suits. When Terence took Sean out to dinner, he was trying to cultivate a man who could convincingly be a food and wine expert. Cubby Broccoli said, "We wanted to underscore the character a bit, make him look used to ordering a Mouton Rothschild 53 or Tattinger's Blanc de Blanc in restaurants. The sort of chap who'd go to Fortnum's to buy Norwegian heather honey on his way to have a last made by the royal shoemaker." And Bond writer Raymond Benson said Terence educated the actor in the ways of being dapper, witty, and above all, cool. Now, Connery himself actually only read, according to his own words, about 1.5 of the original James Bond books. So what he was able to do was bring his own edge to the character. Add that to the refinement and education and mentorship given to him by Terence Young, and you get the man that won over audiences internationally. They were able to perfectly combine Sean Connery's natural confidence, swagger, and physical prowess, but with a clipped refinement that comes with a rigorous process of self-development and personal growth. Now, a man that appeared to be overly polished or overly refined might not have brought that danger and that sex appeal that not only won over male audiences but also won over female audiences. And ultimately, Sean Connery brought a tough edge to the character that, in my opinion, nobody would come close to until Daniel Craig. In many ways, Sean Connery epitomized the blunt instrument that Ian Fleming had described in his books. Now, today, when it comes to style, confidence, how to carry yourself as a man, Sean Connery remains a tremendous source of inspiration, not only for Bond fans, but also for many people that watch this channel. And there's a reason why I often use him as a point of reference when talking about these matters. He goes to show perfectly how you can take perhaps more of a rough cut. You don't have to come from a particular family, you don't need to have gone to a particular school, and then you can go through a deliberate process of refining oneself to become a man of style, of sophistication, of deep presence and character. And every actor who has taken on the James Bond role ever since Sean Connery has studied his portrayal and performance diligently. The late Roger Moore said, "I think Sean was obviously the great Bond. He was obviously the right person. He brought the right personality to the performance. Otherwise, Bond would not have gone on past the first 6 that he did. He was a tremendous Bond." And after Sean Connery passed away in 2020, Daniel Craig said, "He defined an era and a style. The wit and charm he portrayed on screen could be measured in megawatts." And ultimately, even Ian Fleming was bowled over by Sean Connery's performance. It completely blew his initial skepticism and snobbishness out of the water. So much so that he even wrote Connery's Scottish ancestry into the character of Bond in future novels. And with today's lack of strong male role models in the media, it's no surprise that young men today continue to look up to Sean Connery. And what does Sean Connery's journey, his transformation into becoming Bond, into becoming a sophisticated gentleman, what does that all mean for you? Well, I think it serves as a perfect example of what's possible. Perhaps you have this idea in your mind of the man you'd like to become, how he dresses, how he speaks, how he carries himself, and how he's perceived by others. Connery goes to prove that with a deliberate process, with deliberate education, with mentorship and guidance, you too can become that man. And it's perfectly possible that one day you will leave a legacy and an impression just like Sean Connery. Not necessarily one as an actor, but one as a husband, as a father, as a leader at work and in your community. Now, with that said, we've gone over how Sean Connery required an education in these matters, and how he had a mentor with Terence Young and Cubby Broccoli showing him the way forward, a blueprint, a roadmap. And if that's what you're looking for, then I highly encourage you to apply for my personal education and mentorship program. Within this program, you will receive my Modern Gentleman Blueprint, which tells you everything I know about style and dress, grooming and self-care, confidence, communication, dating and attraction. You'll also receive one-to-one mentorship with me in the form of video calls and calls within a small group of men who are on the same journey as you and who share the same values as you. If you are looking to improve yourself, refine yourself, even transform yourself, and see results in your dating life, in your communication skills, in your social network, and also the levels of pride and self-respect that you feel, then I genuinely believe that this program could be massively helpful to you. And if you would like to apply, you can book a call with me simply by clicking the link down in the description. I would love to be part of your journey, helping you unlock the most gentlemanly version of you, just like Sean Connery did for his role as James Bond. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.